Hey everybody, it's Dan. Are you learning golf backwards? Well, most likely you are. The culture of this game, the way that it is learned and the way that it is instructed, is actually inherently backwards. In today's video, we're going to explore why that is and what to do about it. So what do I mean by learning golf backwards? Well, the culture of this game, so that would include the people that are learning it and trying to get better at it and the people that are instructing it, have a collective belief that we can improve our physical actions or our physical movements and our skills at the level of action by making it about how individual body parts move and also creating a lot of rules of what's right and what's wrong. Now, if you really think about it, that's not how you learn how to do anything that you do well in movement naturally. And most of our vital movement skills, in fact, all of our vital movement skills are learned before we have a conscious mind that can get in the way and try to process and try to stitch together things. So you didn't learn how to toss a ball, ride a bike, walk by stitching together individual parts. It came largely from perception and from intention and allowing it to develop very naturally. Your body inherently, relative to the acceleration of gravity and the pressure that it exists within it, has learned how to move very, very effortlessly and naturally over the course of your life. Golf should be no different. But it requires that we would go back and we would think about the way that we're actually learning this game, and that we need to have some pretty clear perceptions on what the golf swing is and what it isn't, and then actually what I'm going to call sneak up on the golf swing. If you are trying to create a golf swing by moving your body parts, you are likely creating more chaos and making it very, very difficult for you to actually find the most natural, fluid, ultimately most effortless and powerful golf swing. When one tries to use body parts and whatnot, also unfortunately, our learning system is very good at remembering, if you will. So when you create an effectiveness for a task and it's good enough to produce the results, so let's just say in golf that you're casting the club, but you can really hit the golf ball okay doing that, or you're making contact, the body doesn't necessarily filter that out as bad. It tries to get good at predicting the things that are involved with that motion. What we want to really make sure is that our body actually is able to connect to the things that are very, very important and vital, and then learns how to let that happen. And that's what an elite golf swing does, is it really removes all the extra things. It isn't learning at the level, it isn't being developed at the level of action, it's being developed at the level of perception and intention, and it's naturally refining based on, does it work or does it not work? Does it feel more natural or does it not feel more natural? Most of us get so caught up in the rules of my doing it right or wrong that we ignore the signals of our body that's telling you, hey, this is too hard, this is too difficult, and don't actually pursue it in a way that it makes it feel easier and more effortless. So in the next segment of the video, we're going to talk about what would be the strategy for actually learning what I would call not backwards, but forwards, the way that you've always done it in your life. Okay, now let's talk about learning in the correct order, the way that you have learned everything naturally. It's always been a process of removal that started with the perception and intent. So I'm just going to use the simple act of tossing a ball. So whether you're really good at throwing it or not, it doesn't really matter. Everybody can probably pick up a ball and just toss it. Okay? And of course, the more experience you've had with tossing, the more refined it's become. You didn't read any books on how to toss. You didn't break it down into multiple moving parts. But if we were to actually analyze, quote unquote, the mechanics of somebody tossing a ball, we would see a lot of the things that we would see in a golf swing. We would see the arms swing back. We'd see a little bit of, quote unquote, weight shift or body movement. We would see the body moving in kind of its parts in a way that really, really maximizes the task. And that's the important part to understand. But you probably didn't start with, hey, I'm gonna, as this is going back, I'm gonna kind of step in here, and then I'm gonna allow my arm to kind of start swinging, and I'm gonna kind of counter that with my body with a little rotation. There was no thought about how that was all coming together. It just simply started to exist. And it started to exist because your body naturally wants to do that anyways. So it was more important to understand the task. So the task is, hey, I've got to make a movement. Now, your first toss probably looks something like this. Had a lot of extra force. It had the idea of a direction, but it had extra force, and it had an awkwardness to it. And through repeated attempts and failures, that becomes more and more refined. So the body just seeks to eliminate the extra if you allow it to do its work. The only thing that can stop you from learning naturally is to start thinking about how to move. So you could take somebody that's learning how to toss, and if they had a strong enough rule-based conscious mind, by breaking down tossing into mechanics, you could make it a very, very difficult thing to learn, to the point where they may never actually get it to be at their most natural. So that is what we need to understand about learning a golf swing, is that we need to perceive it in a way where there's a naturalness to it. So to take golf to the understanding of learning it forwards as opposed to backwards, it's going to require that we perceive things in the correct manner first and see it for what it is, so our body can go through the process of removal without the mind creating a bunch of rules. So the first thing that has to happen, if you've struggled with golf, you need to kind of blow up all the rules and forget the things that you've been taught that continue to be echoed through the culture of the game, and actually go, okay, well, let's look at this through a fresh set of eyes and see if that changes things. So I need to understand that I want to use the golf club as if it was one of my hands, and at a high velocity ultimately, but I want to have the sense that I'm reaching or touching or throwing in the direction of the target line with the club head, as if I wasn't really attached to the center of mass of the shaft. So that's where we get a lot of the chaos in a golf swing. If you have rules of how to move and you're using the golf club in a way that you haven't eliminated the tendency to try to cast it or pull on it or try to control its direction through the center of mass, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. You're just basically creating friction constantly and getting good at that friction, and your body, of course, learns how to match up those things as best as it can. So I need to feel like I'm not connected to the club head by the shaft. And that is kind of the first thing that's going to create some natural learning. If I was to throw this golf club, I wouldn't grab the shaft and try to flick it. I actually would naturally loosen myself on the shaft, and then I would let it go at the right time, and that's the act of throwing or tossing. And then my body would follow suit in making that better and better based on the needs I had for speed and direction. So to learn naturally, it's much easier to use my training aid, the Pro here. The Pro eliminates the shaft, keeps you connected by a rigid grip, but it has the weight that will become a part of your body right out of the get-go. Basically, it will not respond to any action that's being put on the grip. It will just respond basically on the basic intention. So if my intention is just simply to throw it or reach it in the direction of the target line, as you can see here, then I have a simple task that my body can really kind of get used to grooving with. It's taking away a lot of the extra things that I would normally do. Now, the goal would be, instead of perceiving the golf swing as something that you're trying to create with body part movements, I want you to perceive the golf swing as something that already exists. So it is just a simple curving arc movement that is going in the direction of the target line, and you need to learn how to match what it wants to do. So I almost want you to almost think that this would be learning backwards for most people, but this would actually be the correct way of learning. If I was to perceive the cylinder, in this case, as outrunning me, as I'm just letting it take its path, notice again where my eyes are focused, they're behind me, and I'm allowing this thing to find a very, very fluid path, an easy curve right down to the target line, now I'm starting to see the golf swing in a different way. And so what happens is, now that I'm sensing the intent and the naturalness of the curve of the movement, my body can learn how to enhance that, just like it has enhanced all of the movements that you've ever done in your life. So ultimately, if you attain mastery with the Pro, we know everything's really good because the grip, the rope, and the cylinder stay in alignment while you make the movement. And as you've mastered doing that, you'll notice, hey, Dan's lower body's moving out of the way. It's leading the swing, and yes, it is. It's leading it, though, based on learning it naturally, not based on the rules. That then sets me a new template for my golf swing. So now that I have the golf club back in my hand, yes, I can feel the center of mass, and it's difficult to overcome that, but that needs to be understood, is that now the movement of the golf swing, well, what if I did the same thing? What if I allowed the golf club to start to freewheel and get out in front of me? How would my body start to respond? Well, if you give it that perception and you give it that intention, if you keep working at it, your body will remove the unnecessary, and you might be surprised with actually how little energy it takes to get most of that density to compress that golf ball. But if you continue with trying to learn it backwards, trying to get in front of it, you're going to be stuck with always having to add forces that complicate the movement. So in a nutshell here, what we want to have an understanding of is that if I learn golf with the correct perception and intention, and I have a tool that really helps me see it correctly and develop oh yeah, that's how my body moves when I really allow something to go to freewheel towards the target line, I now have a different intention that I can apply back to my golf club. All right, hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you all next time.